Good morning. My name's Kully Boden. I'm the Service Manager for Highway Maintenance at Derby City Council. If you don't know me well, I'm quite a curious person, and by that I mean I'm not averse to trying something new or different. And whilst that curiosity could get me into a spot of bother sometimes, it has also led me to ask questions that some others might overlook. But what I really enjoy doing is discovering how different perspectives can come together and shape better ideas. And collaboration gives us that space where that curiosity can meet contribution and something really good can evolve. So essentially, what we've created at Derby is a new crash model for managing skid resistance on local roads. And it's a method for local authorities to prioritise maintenance treatments by analysing a combination of local characteristics, which will give you a priority ranking for each location. And we feel it provides for the first time a balanced method for assessing risk, using your own resources to target sites that can deliver those safety benefits. So we've created the laser approach. Why? Well, local authorities have traditionally relied on the adopted research and standards that have been developed for motorways and trunk roads. And by that I mean DRMB HD 2815, or which was replaced by CS 228. And this has made it consistently difficult to address the unique roads, the needs of the local road networks, because those standards were never developed with local authorities in mind, and it's not optimized for local road networks. Our networks are clearly not made up of long, straight, high-speed, high-volume roads. So why are we so dependent on a trunk road standard that requires a bit of thoughtful reworking? Because it just doesn't support the geometry that we have with our unique roundabouts, bends, junctions, gradients, and crossings. Without that evidence, of how to manage the risk of collisions on those types of roads, how can we support a true risk-based approach? What data are you using to determine effective interventions on skid management? So this is a shift in thinking. It's a disruptor, you might say. It's a tool that we've developed by local authorities for local authorities. That's right. We have 19 local authorities that have collaborated to empower you to target interventions where they matter most, to save your vital resources on investigating only the sites that need it. It's a new standard for evidence-based asset management. Today's presentation is not about going into the detail of the methodology, although you will find it on the dedicated website at that QR code, and the website address is there as well as an email address. And these were both set up to help us disseminate the information, and that we hope will stimulate new interest and hopefully support further collaboration and adoption. Today, we're talking about the efficiencies that we've achieved and, more importantly, what we've learned. So it all started back in 2019 when Derby City were working with Zeiss Asset Management. We have a really good working relationship with them. We've delivered a number of asset management policies and strategies together, really hammering home that data-driven, risk-based approach. And Zeiss at the same time were delivering CPD courses on alongside the the RSTA, to develop competency in setting those investigatory levels and assessing sites. And they themselves were challenging the usefulness of training local authorities to apply a national highway model to local authority circumstances. And meanwhile, the Road Safety Trust, they released a small grant fund for organisations who wanted to research innovative and new approaches that could make a measurable difference to road safety on our UK roads, essentially to reduce deaths and collisions. And key to that bid would be to demonstrate a really strong element of partnership working with other organisations who could help us achieve the project's objectives. So along with my own inquisitiveness, a combination of ZACE, maximising on my appetite for doing something really new and innovative, as well as their data crunching and analysis capabilities, as well as being able to work closely with a practitioner with really strong technical skills, Dr. Helen Viner, who just happened to work on a very early version of HD 2815. She worked on version 4. We felt like we'd got a real good platform, a real good project team to put a strong bid together to the Road Safety Trust. And this was successful. We led a bid in 2020, and we started a research study which began to close that evidence gap by examining the link between skid resistance and collision risk on local roads. We initially worked with 10 other local authorities, and we set up a steering group. A collation of network data from each local authority alongside DFT collision data and traffic data were assessed and validated. The research proposed new skid resistance thresholds and a new decision framework, because the findings that were reported in 2021 suggested that the skid resistance investigatory levels that were commonly being used by local authorities were not identifying the sites that are most likely to generate those safety benefits. However, given the significant differences comparing this finding with the established method, we took a cautious approach until further validation could be carried out. Enter phase 2. We took a further application to the Road Safety Trust, which was successful, and we were able to secure funding for a pilot trial. And we carried that out between 2022 and 25. The dissemination of phase 1, which was a requirement of the grant, led to more local authorities showing interest in phase 2. And there's the authorities there. 12 local authorities participated in the pilot trial alongside Derby. And this had the objective to see if the benefits that were predicted by the earlier research could be achieved in practice, and if so, give us confidence to begin to start using that approach. As a practical trial, this was a much bigger ask for local authorities that participated in phase 2. Each local authority had to provide data, and as well as identify sites that were going to be treated to improve skid resistance, alongside identifying a number of comparison sites that were left untreated and monitored for 3 years. This was a complex project with effort and funding sustained over a 5-year period. So what were the key findings and efficiencies? Well, ultimately, a reduction in collisions is achievable. The headline findings are that the treatments carried out at the locations where the laser approach was identified were effective in reducing collisions in wet conditions. And where a significant improvement in skid resistance was achieved, a 38% reduction in wet collisions was observed compared with the untreated comparison sites. The laser approach appears to be effective in targeting lengths that can deliver safety benefits, and it has the advantage over traditional strategies that it balances the collision history of a site with the loss of skid resistance in assessing its priority for treatment. And this allows for treatments to be identified on a preventative basis before an injury occurs. The clear efficiency is the change in thresholds. It filters out low-risk sites. They would have been identified using the existing standards for high-speed roads. And that will mean that maintenance resources are targeted at those sites that are going to deliver that highest safety return through these evidence-led decisions. It prevents unnecessary treatments by focusing on those underlying risk factors rather than just assessing the surface level condition. And that is consistent with the principles of well-managed highways infrastructure code of practice. The laser approach can be done in a hybrid fashion. You can run it alongside your existing policies and you can make comparisons, and that will help with reducing disruption and easing implementation should you wish to take this approach up. An Excel spreadsheet has a prioritization tool has been developed to help you implement the laser approach. So there's no need for complex software. We can run the current methodology, version 3, in Excel, which makes it accessible and low cost for all. We produced a one-page case for change at the request of the steering group, and that was to provide a high-level justification for your authority decision makers. The Road Safety Trust also asked us to produce a briefing note of the project, and that was launched at the ELCRIG conference and pictured on the screen there to help summarise the research, and copies of those could be found on the website. So what about the lessons learned? Well, had we known then what we know now, we probably would have submitted a larger bid to the Road Safety Trust. We could have easily doubled the original plan. More funding would have given us more sites to analyse, it would have given us more confidence in our results, we would have been able to monitor it over a longer time, and an opportunity for more local authorities to be involved. But equally, it made us draw a line to come to some sensible conclusions. So there's always a balance to be had with ambition and realism. During phase 1, we should have collected a bigger data set to allow for more granularity in the analysis, particularly looking at different types of junctions and crossings and the approaches to those crossings. That would have given us further evidence for the research. We were pleased with the number of sites that we identified, but more variety would have been better. Also, during phase 2, despite designing the study in advance to include a larger number of sites for monitoring, there were often constraints with the choices that local authorities made. That at some points we didn't think that we were going to have conclusive results from the research. And although a promising number of sites were identified, some were abandoned at different stages of the project. So the overall profile of the characteristics of the research was probably not ideal, and not all the treated lengths achieved a significant improvement in skid resistance. However, we were pleased with the number of sites we were able to identify. A larger sample would obviously have been great, would have been better for a more robust analysis. Local authorities also experienced some challenges in identifying suitable sites, which we were able to solve through discussions that balanced local authority maintenance priorities with the locations that were being prioritised through the laser approach. But there was a mutual acceptance by the authorities to go with the study's findings. Handling large volumes of data taught us that the structure and clarity are non-negotiable. The resource that was required to collate, cleanse, manipulate and validate the numerous different data sets that we had, often in differing formats from all the authorities, has been a real challenge, as has the complexity of the statistical analysis. And it's something that we probably significantly underestimated and we overcompensated for because we wanted to reach that common goal to generate a robust data set for analysis. The project, in fact, was extended for 18 months in phase 2 to allow for a longer period to monitor these sites after treatment to give us those assurance on the findings. We've learned that we need to be flexible and adaptive. The difficulty with research is that you can't anticipate the outcome or define the results in advance, so you've got to be prepared to learn and adjust as you go. And collaborating with the steering group really helped with this because it brought together those diverse perspectives, and it enabled a shared risk management, and it allowed us to adapt more effectively when these new insights were emerging. There was regular milestone reporting to the Road Safety Trust, and that kept us accountable too. And given the significance of the project, we were careful not to get ahead of ourselves. However, as we progressed, it was becoming clearer that the laser approach was both practical and effective. And confirming this was requiring some considerable effort to ensure that our findings were robust and reliable. The consistent participation of local authorities at every steering group meeting was particularly encouraging. Their ongoing engagement held the project team accountable, and it reinforced the project the importance of delivering solid evidence-based data to support that case for change. But key to this also was the in-kind support from every collaborator at each phase. A high level of in-kind support was required. Local authorities were not only contributing their data and their knowledge and expertise, but in phase 2, they were giving us their maintenance budgets to support the work, including carrying out surface treatments at agreed locations and ensuring that there were no treatments carried out at those comparable sites. And when it became clear that the site needed to be monitored for a longer period, to accurately assess the longer term performance, 5 local authorities actually made a voluntary financial contribution to extend the trial, which were match funded by the Road Safety Trust. So those in-kind support was truly appreciated. But what it showed us was that collaboration resulted from a shared recognition that local road lacked evidence to support a risk-based skid management approach. And this project has enabled us to establish a robust methodology together. It's based on local authority data and real-time monitoring. And it's clearly demonstrated the safety benefit of targeted interventions. So we thank those authorities for their input and their contributions. We couldn't have done it without them. In our last steering group meeting that we held a straw poll, and 40% intended to adopt the methodology, mainly in hybrid form, while 60% were undecided. We accepted that there was a likely need for some further engagement with them and maybe some internal alignment, but notably no members opposed it, which indicated a broad openness to its principles. The findings are practical and evidence-based, and they're not controversial. And whilst it's a shift from the conventional methods, it is significant. Some have expressed some concern about defending that new approach, but in the reality is it represents a guided, collaborative transition towards safer roads. Finally, you may have come across this model. It's Everett Rogers' diffusion of innovation, and it's the process and patterns of which new ideas or products spread through a social system over time, and how different people will adopt them at different times. And the laser approach has seen this in action. The project team, which was Derby City Council, Zeiss Asset Management and Enodamus, and the phase 1 local authorities innovated by building that case for change. The early adopters were the 19 local authorities in total that piloted that approach and have taken on these new ideas and helped to legitimise those for others. Our early majority will be hopefully those listening now and listened at the conference, taking on board the methodology on the website and having a go, trialling the approach. And by sharing the knowledge built by the collaboration, we hope to saturate to a bigger majority. We ask you, will you be part of the wave, or will you be watching from the shore? To finalise, laser isn't just a tool, it's a shared solution and an award-worthy one too. Thank you very much.